Hi everyone, my name is Sampo and I'm here today to share my design for the next Guild Wars 2 expansion pack. The expansion pack is called Sea of Secrets and it's all about water in Guild Wars 2. Water has always been something that's not very exciting in the game, so the idea of this expansion pack is to make it more exciting. So there are new ways to explore water and I'm going to tell about those features in just a minute. So, in this expansion pack, Sea of Secrets, we journey to the coasts of Cantha. On the right side of the screen you can see the maps that would be available at the launch of the expansion pack. Cantha, if you didn't know, it's a known location from the original game, Guild Wars Factions. In Guild Wars 2 it consists of 6 PvE maps. In Heart of Thorns, one of the biggest complaints was the amount of maps when we only got 4 maps, and it was explained with having different biomes and such like that. In Path of Fire we got 5 maps, and it was explained that the maps are huge. In Sea of Secrets we get 6 maps, and well, you would say that, okay, that's maybe too much for the development team, but those maps are mostly water, so I think it's something that's realistically something realistic to handle from the development side. They're large maps and they're very close to water or in water. As I said, this expansion pack is all about water experience, so it sees underwater caves and more, but of course the city of Cantha is an exciting location to visit too, so there is a couple of maps that really go in those maps, in those types of areas as well. There's a new map mechanic which is changing sea level, so the sea level goes up and down during the map meta event, so that opens up different ways to explore the map when some of the areas that were previously covered in water are no longer in water, so you can visit those places on the ground, or you can later on you can visit some of those areas in underwater environment. So there's a lot more replay value in these maps because of the map mechanic. The next one is quite minor thing, but there are leather and clothing gathering nodes in open world. So, for example, in home instance currently we can get those leather and cloth gathering nodes. Those things are available in the open world in Sea of Secrets, around the city of Cantha mostly. Now you might be wondering, what about Jade Sea and Echowald Forest? Those are exciting locations in Guild Wars 1. Unfortunately, this expansion pack is all about water, so those areas are maybe not the right locations to visit, especially when Jade Sea is not necessarily water in the same way. So maybe those areas are better for the Living World releases that would come right after the release of the expansion pack. So then about the mastery system, so of course if with a new expansion pack there would be new masteries, and this expansion pack is all about water, so it makes a lot of sense that the mastery system covers a lot of water related features. So what's the main selling point, as you would say maybe, for the expansion pack? It's boat system. You can get different types of boats or ships that you can travel and battle on water. There are 3 types of boats. There are the traveler's boat, which is used, as the name says, it's used for traveling. So it has increased speed, you can gather, use it for gathering, you can transport your friends and stuff like that. And then there's the battle boat, which is all about combat. You can use your class abilities, and you can, even with the mastery system, you can unlock different types of siege to build on your battle boat. Then we have the submarine, that's used for underwater exploration in areas that are filled with very dangerous underwater animals, so you might want to use some kind of vehicle to protect you in those adventures, so submarine is for that. You can also, with the mastery system, you can build some combat mechanisms for the submarine. Then the mastery system also there is a one track for the fishing. Fishing is a new skill to gather, but it's a lot more than just gathering, and I'm going to explain that more about that in just a minute. So one track for fishing, but then also one track for advanced underwater combat. Underwater combat is something that's always been a very complicated system. Maybe it sounded exciting at launch, when like before launch, when we read about it, it's very complex and so on, but in reality people did not like it for the complex, for it being so complex. So I'm gonna talk about the new underwater combat system in just a minute. But then we go to the world versus world. What is happening to world versus world? There's a new Borderlands map added to game, which is sea. So I'm not sure if you can really call it a Borderlands, as it's mostly sea. So it's mostly border with capture locations on small islands. So supply camps, keeps, towers, those are on islands. But mostly the traveling happens with large ships. So it's all about large-scale naval combat, and these large battleships can be controlled up to 10 people at the same time, with all of them having different roles, such as adjusting speed, adjusting rotation of the ship. You can also use cannons and other seats, and all kinds of different stuff on that ship. So really, if you want to be successful in these naval battles, you really need to have good cooperation in your squad, and you need to split from the standard 50-man squad to smaller squads to take these epic naval battles and win them. It's also, you might be wondering, like, why would you use ships if you can just swim in the water? Well, the waters are swarming with dangerous monsters like legendary sharks and that kind of stuff, and they're really gonna kill those players that really try to just swim. So you want to use those different types of boats. You can also use your mastery abilities that you can also unlock in World vs. World ranks and abilities with your world experience points, so you can have those smaller boats as well if you want to use them instead of those large battleships. Then about the mastery fishing. So as I said, fishing is a lot more than just gathering in Guild Wars 2. You can catch fish, but you can also catch other items for different kinds of collections that unlock you different rods and baits. These rods and baits allow you to catch different types of items and fish. So you really want to utilize it. It's not just going to one place and fishing. There are different fishing pools that gather different types of fish. It's very interactive experience, and it's not about standing still and just spamming one key. It's very dynamic in a way. There are also automated weekly fishing tournaments that reward you with fishing poles and such if you don't want to buy those off the gem store. So then we have the underwater combat revamp. So as I said, in the beginning of the game, people did not really like underwater combat because it had new weapons. It made your character feel completely different that you were used to. So and because underwater combat was always the you spent less time underwater than you spent on ground, so it felt really awkward to having to learn this completely new class whenever going underwater. So what I thought about it making it better was, what if there are only 5 skills underwater? So kind of like in Downstate, so the UI would be kind of like similar to Downstate, where of course it doesn't say fight to survive, it says maybe in some kind of blue UI it says underwater, and then you have like 5 skills, and those 5 skills are easy to understand, kind of like if you are in down state, you have the basic attack, you have some CC, maybe heal, and that kind of stuff. So there are no more underwater weapons. I'm gonna explain what's gonna happen those in just a minute. And then underwater combat expands further with the mastery system, so when you're at max level you can make it more exciting, but it doesn't it's not about being very complex in the very beginning. It's very simple to start, but with the mastery system you can expand and make it more exciting. And the expansion is all about underwater and water experience, so it's really important that the underwater system is great when this expansion comes out. Then about the weapons, I said there's no more underwater weapons, so new weapon type, spears on land. So spears were used by Paragons in the original Guild Wars Nightfall expansion, and so it makes a lot of sense that now when there's no longer spears underwater, that these spears would be on land and introduced as a new weapon type for the game. So they can be used in melee or range, depends on the profession, and they are used by 3 new classes, so 1 heavy, 1 medium and 1 light armor profession through the elite specializations. And then let's go to the elite specializations. So first of all we have the Paragon, which is a warrior elite specialization. Now you might be wondering why give Paragon to warrior and not the guardian. Well, it's mostly because warrior with elite specializations they have always introduced to this point a new weapon for the class, and warrior is a very it's a profession with a lot of weapons, and it doesn't really have a lot of weapons that you can still add to that class. So when introducing a new weapon, it makes a lot of sense to introduce that weapon to warrior, especially when it's a spear that can realistically be used by a warrior. So it made a lot more sense to give it a warrior instead of Paragon, especially because I have another idea for Guardian that I'm gonna talk about very soon. So warrior gets the Paragon, and I think it gives a new way to play warrior. Well, first of all, what is Paragon? It's known from Guild Wars Nightfall. It's one of the professions there. And so in Sea of Secrets, Paragon is about friendly control and support. So what does friendly control mean? Friendly control is about controlling your allies in a way that you give them huge bonuses if they follow your orders. So as a slot skills, the Paragon gets consecrations that are AoEs that grant significant bonuses to allies, but they deactivate if a foe stands in that area. So for example, if you are fighting a raid boss, you can't just throw the AoE under the ground where everyone is stacking, because the boss is also there, and then deactivating the effect. So it's really about giving orders to your allies like, okay, look, this is the location where you're supposed to stand, go stand there, you are the ranged people, you are there. And you know, different consecrations could act differently, so maybe only one consecration acts this way, that it deactivates. There could be other ways, like you could summon some kind of different types of consecrations that give you different buffs in different situations. But this is one example how this could work. And so they used a spear as a ranged weapon, just like in Nightfall. Then we have the Monk, which is the Guardian elite specialization. It's a profession in Guild Wars. It's a melee healer. Well, we already have Druid, which is kind of like a melee healer, like it uses very close range healing, but this is very close range. It's about touching your friends, which sounds maybe kind of weird, but it's about the hit slot skills, which are physical, and spells like Healing Touch, that you really need to touch your allies to heal them. And they get focus in main hand, which is kind of a new thing in Guild Wars 2, but I thought that it would be the most logical to give the monk, especially because they already have Guardian already has scepter, staff, focusing offhand, and it just felt right to give focus. It could also be a dagger, but I just decided that it would be focus in main hand to give something little extra special thing there. Then we have the Ritualist, which is the Revenant elite specialization. Ritualist is a profession in Guild Force factions, and this is about area control, so you summon different kinds of spirits, just like in original Guild Force, and you get the weapon of Scepter. So you can really become that Ritualist as your Revenant. I have not decided what legendary hero they would channel, so maybe you guys have some suggestions on what this Ritualist specialization would channel, and suggest those in comments. Then we have the Thug, which is the Thief elite specialization. This is really the tough thief guy. That usually thief in Guild Force 2 is the very squishy high DPS character, but this is really about tanking. Not necessarily about tanking in raids, but being very tanky character. So it has a lot of stuns, and that of course reduces the damage you take, because when your opponent is in CC, they can't deal often that much damage to you. They get mace in main hand and offhand, and they don't have stealth. That's the really the biggest cost of being a thug, is that you don't have access to stealth. All the abilities that would give you stealth instead give you this buff called hardiness. It's not a boon, it's an effect that cannot be removed, and it's a significant damage reduction. We are talking something about 50% damage reduction, something really huge, and that makes you really feel like you are that front line, more like a warrior type of character when you're playing Thief. Yeah, those numbers, of course 50%, if it feels like it's too little or too much, that of course can be changed, but I'm not going into balance and that kind of stuff. But you get the idea. It's not about being stealthy, it's about being that tough guy in the front line. Then we get the Viper, which is a Ranger elite specialization. So it's about offensive support. So for Ranger it has been a problem for that it's difficult to not maybe give support, but maybe like in group fights, for example in World vs. World, how you get tags to get loot packs and that kind of stuff. So you have slot skills that are venoms, and they are automatically shared with your party. So if you use those venoms, you are gonna get that sweet loot tag and get some loot in World vs. World if you're playing a Ranger. And they are the second profession to get the spear weapon. And they use it in melee and ranged both. Profession mechanic, they have transform into a crate, and that's something really special. I haven't decided if they would use a pet or not. Like this would be something that replaces your F1 skill, or maybe like F5 skill, depending on how the system works. You know, I'm not going into too much detail, but it's about transforming into crate, like this snake creature that's very venomous, and it's about giving a lot of poison, but also giving those offensive support buffs to your allies. And then we have the Skater Boy, which is Engineer Elite Specialization. Okay, the name isn't very serious, but you can suggest a better name if you want in the comments. It's an engineer specialization that uses shield in main hand. So engineer has always been this really fun class to play. It's about ridiculous stuff and making really a joy out of those crazy options. So it's a shield in main hand, but you can also use the shield as a hoverboard and surf on water. And just like in Wildstar, you have the hoverboard. The engineer can use the shield as a hoverboard. So that's if you chose engineer in the first place to get all those fun gadgets and stuff. This is the continuation for that choice. Yeah, I haven't designed more of the elite specialization. We are still missing Mesmer, Necromancer, and Elementalist, and one of those classes is supposed to have Spear. If you have any suggestion what those classes would be about, I was thinking that maybe Shaman, maybe Elementalist would be some kind of Shaman that gives kind of like banner-like totems, and maybe Necromancer has the spear and some kind of stealth action going on, and maybe Mesmer has a main hand pistol. But you can really give your ideas for those classes or any of the other classes. If you disagree or if you really like, I like what you just saw, I would like to hear your feedback in the comments below. So, and what you think about this expansion pack. Is it realistic for ArenaNet to pull out? But yeah, give your feedback, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, my name is Sampo, and thanks for watching, and maybe we see in the future, hopefully.